They came with open hands and unarmed ships, wrapped not in armor but in trust. Earth's peacekeeper delegation, draped in white emblems and carrying no weapons, stepped into the Hall of Tranquility, the heart of the Galactic Assembly. It had taken decades to earn that seat, centuries of war and diplomacy to be recognized not as survivors, but as equals. The hall stood silent as the human envoys entered, carrying only dialogue protocols and treaty documents. Cameras floated. Dignitaries observed. No one expected what came next. The transmission was not cut, nor did it stutter. It played live, uninterrupted across galactic networks. One of the Volcari generals raised his claw, not in salute, but in judgment. He declared humanity's rise a threat cloaked in false civility. Without warning, energy bolts sliced through the peacekeepers. The lead diplomat collapsed mid-sentence. Others scrambled for cover they were never meant to need. A second volley followed. The delegation crumpled like paper. Not a word of resistance, not a single act of retaliation. The peace Earth offered was drowned in its own blood. Worlds froze in disbelief. Some watched in horror. Others smirked. Earth had been a curiosity, a rising species eager to integrate, until now. The broadcast ended on the Volcari crest, their generals making it clear, diplomacy ends where dominance begins. To them, Earth's ambition was insolence, and its messengers were the price of arrogance. The Galactic Council issued hollow condemnations, but no real action followed. They feared Volcari wrath more than they respected Earth's suffering. Empires calculated and shrugged. The silence from Earth wasn't submission, it was the quiet before a pressure break. Days passed. Then weeks. Earth's embassies closed. Trade ceased. Probes returned home. Satellites went dark. It was not retreat. It was recalibration. They thought Earth would beg. Or mourn. Or retaliate with fleets. It did none of those. It initiated a protocol no one had heard of in centuries. Not even Earth's allies were informed. Deep under the crust of a forgotten continent, something ancient and sealed received a signal. No lights. No alarms. Just a mechanical heartbeat resuming after generations of sleep. Files decrypted. Doors opened. A body stirred from the stasis of extinction. The galactic news hubs speculated endlessly. Some accused Earth of cowardice. Others suspected internal collapse. But those who studied Earth's history, its real history, went quiet. Old files resurfaced. Tales of conflicts where Earth had no advantage yet never surrendered. Operations buried in redacted reports. Battles won by forces that never showed up on satellite scans but left landscapes forever altered. The execution of the Peacekeepers wasn't just a betrayal. It was a line crossed that had been etched in Earth's memory since its first contact. Peace was never Earth's default, it was its chosen mask. Behind that lay something the galaxy had not yet seen, a legacy not of diplomacy, but deterrence crafted through hardship. That mask had shattered now. And something else had emerged from behind it. The Volcari Dominion dismissed Earth's silence as weakness. But nearby outposts began detecting unregistered signals, subspace frequencies laced with patterns no translator could decode. Patterns that matched none of Earth's public communications. These signals weren't addressed to anyone. They were pulses. Rhythmic. Intentional. Measured. They weren't calls for help. They were countdowns. No declaration came. No message of vengeance. Only stillness. But the kind that coils before it strikes. Earth had been pushed past its threshold, not into war, but into a mode deeper than war. It would not appeal. It would not protest. It had made a decision, and that decision had already left orbit. Some said Earth had nothing left to lose. But that was wrong. Earth had just one thing left, and now it had nothing holding it back from using it. The Peacekeepers were not soldiers. But Earth's answer would be. Not in legion, not in armadas. Just one. Enough to remind the galaxy what humanity used to be before it learned peace, a survivor not by chance, but by force of nature. And for the first time, the galaxy would understand what it meant when Earth stopped talking. He wasn't a myth. He was a classified contingency buried beneath Earth's surface since before the planet joined the stars. His designation wasn't known to the public, nor whispered among Earth's military ranks. He was sealed behind protocols triggered only when diplomacy failed beyond repair. When the Peacekeepers died, the final lock disengaged without ceremony. No fanfare. Just a cold activation deep within the planet, a silent system waking the last resort Earth never wanted to use. They called him AWS in black files, an acronym never explained. No identity. No record of origin. He wasn't bred or cloned. He was trained in shadows and fire, shaped by wars Earth had buried in shame and necessity. Not a weapon, not a machine. A man. Human in blood, but functionally extinct in mindset. His mind didn't carry the ethics of a council diplomat. It carried the instincts of a predator born from centuries of conflict. He spoke in a voice so coarse, alien translators couldn't parse it. His accent didn't match any Earth region. It fractured translation matrices, triggering system errors mid-sentence. Communications with him weren't just difficult, they were disorienting. He'd fought wars not listed in Earth's archives, suppressed by governments to prevent panic. He'd led missions that eliminated threats before they reached orbit. His legacy was a trail of silence. No survivors. No records. Only aftermath studied by analysts who couldn't trace the tactics or predict the results. When simulations tried to replicate his decisions, they failed to complete. The models broke. His style didn't follow probability, it followed pain. His weapons were outdated by galactic standards, ballistics, blades, kinetic force. Yet nothing survived them. While alien soldiers relied on plasma grids and neural implants, he moved through environments without augmentation, relying on instinct honed through brutality. He didn't fight for victory. He fought to leave a message, that opposition to Earth had a price not measured in territory or treaties, but trauma. He was trained not to win quickly. He was trained to dismantle morale, fragment unity, and turn fear into surrender. When Earth activated him, it didn't send coordinates or objectives. It just re-established connection. That was enough. He understood what happened. He understood what needed to be undone. He didn't request updates or briefings. No crew. No oversight. He boarded a transport rig with obsolete shielding, powered by raw thrust, and departed without notice. Where he went first, no one knew. Where he landed, no one reported. Signals vanished where he appeared. Whispers started almost immediately. Alien stations lost contact without distress calls. Patrols investigating those regions found drifting vessels, no life signs, no damage visible. Just absence. Footage from one disabled drone showed a figure moving through corridors with deliberate pace. No exosuit. No tech interface. Just presence. His gait was unnerving, balanced, calm, predatory. Audio failed mid-transmission. The last sound was a single word, spoken in an accent that jammed the signal. Council intelligence failed to identify him. Cross-referencing databases returned corrupted results. They assumed it was Earth's new AI warfare protocol. It wasn't. He left no digital footprint. No satellites picked him up. But his pattern was clear. Every location tied to the Peacekeeper execution, strategic, political, or symbolic, was neutralized. Not with explosives or fleets. With precision eliminations. No infrastructure damaged. No collateral. Only the targets, gone. The Vokari dismissed it as sabotage until their second fleet commander disappeared en route to a secure location. Not assassinated. Not kidnapped. Just missing. Their last message, static and a single visual, him, standing still, staring through a surveillance lens before it ruptured. Even hardened alien veterans felt it, the tension, the wrongness. He didn't broadcast threats. He didn't respond to hails. He didn't speak unless he had to. And when he did, nothing understood him. His words weren't made to be understood by outsiders. They were forged in a dialect shaped by chaos, trained in fields where understanding wasn't survival, only action was. The galaxy didn't face a fleet. It faced a relic. A weapon forged by experience, not science. And the terrifying truth wasn't that Earth had sent him. It was that he had been waiting. All this time. Frozen in time, untouched by modern systems, preserved not because Earth needed him, but because it feared what it would mean if it ever had to let him out again. And now it had. It began without warning. A deep space listening post on the Volcari fringe stopped transmitting. No explosion, no alert, just silence. Recovery teams found the structure intact, but every living organism inside had vanished. Logs showed no intrusion. Internal scans replayed footage and fast-forward until frames began skipping. One moment the crew worked normally. The next, static filled the view, followed by blood-slick floors and no motion. Analyzers couldn't identify a point of entry. The incident was marked as internal failure. Then it happened again. A planetary governor's bunker, buried kilometers beneath a mountain, triggered its panic beacon. Elite guards responded in minutes. The doors were sealed, the vault untouched. Inside, only shadows and one blinking red mark on their sensors. No thermal profile. Just mass, moving toward them. They retreated before engaging. Minutes later, that signal vanished. When they returned, nothing remained except shredded armor and fragmented security feeds, frames distorted by what analysts later described as a visual anomaly shaped like a human. Across sectors, reports followed the same pattern: key figures gone, systems left untouched, no signs of traditional combat. Surveillance systems registered distorted audio, deep, cracked phonemes too warped for translation. One ship's AI attempted to auto-transcribe a phrase and crashed mid-process. The sound wasn't just noise. It was disruptive. Disabling. Intentionally invasive. Veterans of galactic wars described it as the most unnatural thing they'd ever heard. It wasn't a language. It was a warning wrapped in sound. Volcari leadership attempted containment. They issued orders to engage the unidentified human on site. That lasted one mission. A cruiser with 400 trained soldiers intercepted his approach near a mining moon. He boarded alone. No shots were fired. The ship was found hours later, adrift. All systems still functional. All weapons unused. Crew status terminated. Only the bridge remained sealed. Inside, the captain had left a final message scratched into the steel with a blade, asterisk. We never saw him. Asterisk. He didn't need overwhelming force. He was the weapon. His approach was psychological, precision over case. He didn't break defenses, he bypassed them. He didn't disable armies, he unmade morale. Entire divisions refused deployment. Civilians fled planetary capitals. Colonies shut down preemptively. The Volcari military rerouted resources from expansion to protection. Their command chain splintered. Generals accused each other of weakness. Councils argued over what to call him. Some said he was a phantom. Others a biological weapon. None were correct. Intercepted fragments from survivor interviews painted a grim picture. They didn't describe combat, they described an atmosphere. Presence. A tension that thickened the air. One survivor repeated the phrase, "He walked like he'd already won," before slipping into silence. Another attempted to draw his face but never finished. Her hands began shaking uncontrollably. She never spoke again. It was no longer war. It was collapse engineered through one man. No fleet could track him. No AI could predict him. Each action he took made the next one harder to anticipate. His patterns were erratic by design. Strategic unpredictability became his shield. Conventional tactics failed. Drones lost signal. Traps were avoided before they were sprung. Even psionic interceptors couldn't sense him. His mind, whatever it was, operated on a frequency they couldn't touch. The only consistency was his focus. Every act targeted those directly involved in the Peacekeeper execution. Not collateral. Not subordinates. Just the architects. And every time he struck, he left behind the same trace: sound fragments. Garbled. Brutal. The same distorted accent that had crippled earlier translation systems. It wasn't taunt or speech, it was a signature. Unreadable. Unstoppable. As panic spread, allied species demanded answers. Earth said nothing. They had not acknowledged his deployment. No statements, no demands, no coordination. Just silence from the origin, and fear spreading from the consequence. Galactic news tried to downplay the situation. But every week brought another vanishing, another broadcast interrupted by static, another survivor too shaken to form a sentence. Military strength no longer mattered. Because one fact became clear to every species watching: Earth hadn't declared war. They had simply released something the galaxy wasn't built to contain. And now, it was moving. They tried surrendering, but no one was listening. The Galactic Council, once dismissive and posturing, now broadcast urgent appeals for dialogue. Their envoys were sent not with demands, but with apologies and offers, economic reparations, strategic concessions, territorial gifts. None reached their intended destination. The moment they entered contested space, signals went dark. Not from attack, but from disappearance. There were no battles, no wreckage. Just silence, again and again, like the void absorbing their pleas. The Vokari High Command switched tactics. They authorized full military defense across every major system, deploying their most advanced warships, planetary shields, and automated turrets. Every captain was instructed to expect asymmetrical engagement, and report any auditory interference immediately. Entire fleets repositioned to form protective rings around their leadership. But no warnings ever triggered. Systems remained green until it was too late. Security nodes displayed status as secure, while internal life signs dropped to 0. The ships stayed intact. The officers did not. Captured surveillance played in council chambers, a figure walking unopposed through a fortified hallway, passing laser turrets without response, stepping through sealed doors like they were air. No resistance. No motion detected until after the loss. Even their emergency AI cores failed to recognize him as hostile. He didn't register on known combatant profiles. It wasn't just fear, it was confusion. Their entire military infrastructure had no protocol for what he was. The systems built to classify threat levels never had a category for a single human operating beyond technological comprehension. Desperation overtook diplomacy. Messages were rerouted to Earth directly. Transmission after transmission flooded neutral relays, each more frantic than the last. Some pleaded. Others promised non-aggression for generations. A few begged for instruction: what to do, who to surrender, where to send reparations. Earth replied with nothing. Not even rejection. No leader appeared, no diplomatic knowledge receipt. It became clear that no voice from the stars would alter the outcome. The council chambers emptied. Delegates resigned. A few species withdrew from interstellar forums entirely, severing ties and isolating in panic. All remaining effort turned toward understanding him, his origin, purpose, limits. Intelligence divisions formed committees. They analyzed everything: movement patterns, timestamps, terrain preference, tactical footprint. None of it helped. For every hypothesis, he proved it wrong in the next strike. They brought in psychometric experts to interpret his behavioral markers. Their conclusion: he doesn't react to stimulus like a soldier. He moves like judgment, cold, inevitable, uninterested in negotiation. Nothing distracts him. Nothing slows him. He has no defined threshold for acceptable loss because he takes none. Attempts to capture or incapacitate him failed before they began. On 3 occasions, elite teams set ambushes using synthetic bait and remote-controlled decoys. He didn't trigger any of them. Instead, he bypassed the trap and appeared 2 systems away, erasing the command center that authorized it. It became evident that trying to anticipate him was the mistake. Strategy itself became a liability. Every plan drew attention. Every movement became a beacon. One by one, council leaders began resigning, not out of fear for their systems, but for their lives. Underground bunkers were abandoned. Decoy signals were launched from remote locations in the hope of misleading him. It didn't work. He wasn't tracking communications. He was tracking guilt. His targets weren't random. They aligned precisely with the chain of command that approved the Peacekeeper execution. Not the operatives. Not the enforcers. Just the decision-makers. They were the ones who vanished. They were the only ones he acknowledged. No speeches. No final words. He offered no doctrine, no ideology, no terms. Earth never stepped forward to clarify his mission or rein him in. Even allied species couldn't reach them. Earth's embassies remained dark, its transmission lines inactive, its orbit quiet. But the result was unmistakable. Species that once considered Earth a minor influence now treated it like a black hole, untouchable, unknowable, and dangerous beyond reason. And still he moved. Not for conquest. Not for revenge. Just the completion of something triggered by betrayal. An old directive now fulfilled by something too human to be understood and too unforgiving to be stopped. There was no announcement when it ended. No treaty. No ceasefire. Just an absence where fear had once thrived. One by one, command signals stopped pulsing. Targeted systems registered no further breaches. Surveillance detected no new anomalies. For the first time in cycles, nothing happened. The Vokari throne world, the epicenter of the original massacre, stood untouched for weeks, abandoned by leadership, guarded by fleets too afraid to enter their own capital. Then one day, he walked through it. No resistance met him. No defenses activated. Automated sentries registered him as non-hostile. Orbital arrays failed to respond. He passed through corridors drenched in silence. Those few who watched through distant optics saw him pause only once, at the central command spire where the execution orders had been signed. He stood still, alone, unmoving for 13 full minutes. Then he turned, walked away, and disappeared. No destruction. No signature left behind. The message was clear, it was over. Not forgiven. Not forgotten. Just concluded. After that, systems reported no trace. Not even in places where he had been. Sensors found no heat, no radiation, not even residual footprints. It was as if he had unexisted, retreating into the same void he had emerged from. Earth never issued a statement. Its channels remained dormant. Its fleets unmoved. But the galaxy changed anyway. The first to react were the fringe empires. They erased all public records of hostilities involving Earth. Monuments were quietly dismantled. Textbooks rewritten. Educational programs were revised to omit references to human vulnerability. The Vokari Empire fractured into smaller domains, each refusing to acknowledge the throne or its former glory. War doctrines across species restructured themselves around one new rule: never provoke Earth. New cadets were trained not to fight, but to avoid. Simulation modules featured scenarios in which overwhelming firepower was irrelevant. Psychological preparation became mandatory, focusing on resisting panic under auditory disruption, though none of the replicas ever fully captured what had been heard. Even synthetic voice engines failed to mimic the garbled accent that had crippled communication networks across star systems. Some tried. All failed. The recordings were incomplete, corrupted, impossible to replicate without error. Unaligned civilizations reached out to Earth, not with alliances, but oaths of non-interference. Treaties were drafted without negotiation. Proximity guidelines were implemented. Trade lanes rerouted. Exploration fleets marked Earth systems as dark zones, unexplored, unrestricted, avoided. Not because of hostility, but because no one wanted to risk awakening what had just gone back to sleep. Religious sects began to emerge, worshipping the event as divine judgment. Not of Earth, but of retribution. In some systems, his image was etched onto shrine walls, not as a figure, but as a shadow. Not out of reverence, but acknowledgement. A symbol of what happens when the line is crossed. Others banned all reference to him entirely, outlawing any documentation that suggested he had ever existed. But the fear remained. In the galactic core, Power shifted. Those who once led with force began leaning on appeasement. Silence became policy. Aggression was replaced by precaution. Every civilization, whether advanced or primitive, carried one new truth in their deepest protocols: peace with Earth was not optional. It was survival. No one ever found out where he went. No sensor ever tracked his return. Earth never confirmed his status. Some believed he was placed back into stasis, buried again beneath the crust of his home planet. Others speculated he never returned, simply vanishing into deep space, still active, waiting. Regardless, no one searched. What lingered wasn't victory, it was deterrence. Earth had not claimed territory, demanded justice, or issued conditions. It had responded with a presence that made ambition irrelevant. A reminder that peace was not Earth's weakness, it was its mercy. And when mercy was taken for granted, what followed was not a second chance. It was final. The galaxy resumed movement, but slower, quieter. Exploration continued, but never in Earth's direction. Alliances formed, but always with an eye on the shadows. And through it all, one unspoken warning traveled faster than any signal: if peace is broken again, he will wake.